Hello everybody and welcome to the Device Doctor. If it's your first time here, I'm not an electronics technician, just a guy who likes rolling up his sleeves and giving broken devices a second chance. From dead phones to retro computers, I'm all about practical fixes and a bit of DIY spirit. And for those of you popping back, cheers for sticking around. You know how it goes, we've got tea on the boil, tools at the ready, and another gadget begging for a bit of TLC. Whether it's a cracked screen or a device that's completely given up the ghost, we'll have a go at sorting it. So if you fancy learning a few tricks, having a laugh and watching me occasionally stuff things up, hit the like and subscribe button. With the compulsory plug out of the way, let's head over to the bench and meet today's device. Hello everybody. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're a returning visitor, welcome back. Today I have on the bench a Sega Game Gear external battery pack. As most of you are aware, the Sega Game Gear runs on 6 AAA batteries and will exhaust those batteries in roughly 4 hours with standard play. A little bit longer nowadays with a brand new IPS screen and things like that, which are less power hungry. But the premise behind these were that you could literally carry an external power pack around, clip it to your belt via a nice little clip which attaches on the back here, just screws in, and continue to play with your your Game Gear for an extended period of time. The original ones came out with a 1.2 amp hour battery in them. They were rechargeable. You just use the actual Sega Game Gear external power pack to actually charge these up. The battery in this one is well and truly dead. So the plan today is to actually exchange it for a much more modern battery. This particular one is a 500 milliamp hour and 7.2 volt. For those of you in the United States, that's a 36 watt hours. This contains a lot more power than the original one, but is function with the same form factor, although the wires are a bit thicker. So what I'm going to do is open this one up. Have a look inside, just basically switch it out. There'll be a little bit of soldering as I connect the wires up, but we're just going to test it and see if it actually comes to life once we've got it out. The other thing I'll do is obviously check the original battery to make sure it is completely dead. Now, one of the things about these is that when you're taking these out, these have a rather peculiar screw in there, and once I take one out you'll see why. But you need a rather special screwdriver, something similar to this one. I have heard of people actually getting pliers in there and sort of manipulating them, but it tends to damage the case up. Anyway, so with these, kind of sit over the top, and they can be quite stiff to get out. I mean, I don't think these have been removed for quite some time, so so this one should hopefully be a short video. So as you can see, apart from the fact it's a bit grimy, these screws they're not particularly special, but they do have an interesting, don't know if the camera will focus on that or not, but yeah, they bit of a security bit on them. I get the distinct impression that these were never really meant to be serviceable by the users themselves, especially at that particular time. I mean, the rechargeable battery technology back in the 90s was pretty new stuff. So I just maybe take that one out by hand. For those of you not familiar with Sega Game Gears, they were Sega's answer to the Game Boy. and I think the Atari Lynx came out around about the same time. At least the first model one came out at the same time. The big difference was that the Game Gears had a full color screen, although it was backlit by a fluorescent tube rather than the modern systems that we have these days, and as a result tended to chew the power up very, very quickly. So with these, there are a couple of clips on each side, and the way I tend to do this is just sort of push it in on one side, and if I can, and then just crack it open like that. There we go. And as we can see with this one, I don't think there's a date on this. No, there's no dates on these, but this looks like a very, very much like an original. 7.2 volts. 1,300 milliamp. So, and they just literally clip in like that. So I mean, in theory, you could just pull them apart and they'd go fine. So, before we go too far, let's actually just test this. I'm pretty sure you'll find that this is completely dead. I'm just going to test this to see if there's actually any life left in it at all. I'd be very surprised if there is. And I am trying out a new voltmeter interface, so, oh sorry, I should say, yes, multimeter interface, not voltmeter. Jeez. Let me know your thoughts on that, and I said like it anyway. So let's actually see if we've got anything in here at all. There is actually. So about 0.08 volts, which is interesting. What I've got to replace it with is a 500 milliamp hour 7.2 volt high performance battery. These are the type of batteries that you would find in like Model RC, radio controlled vehicles, planes, that sort of thing. Obviously a lot more storage capacity than the original ones that we have here, but functionally about this, roughly the same physical size. So hopefully this should fit in there nicely. Just to check the voltage on this one, or I should say the level of charge is what I'm actually trying to check here, rather than voltage. So yeah, this one is 7.3 volts, which basically is fully charged. The idea being that I will need to do a little bit of work on this, because obviously these wires are a lot thicker than this one. So just for now, what I'm going to do is to actually just cut these wires carefully, because I don't want them shorting, and attach them to this connector, which should actually be fine. It's the actual ampage draw on this, I believe, is only about 2 amps. So yes, discharge rate is about 2 amps, which is functionally as much as this could actually handle anyway. Hopefully that all works. I mean, the other way of doing this would be to actually pop this board out and actually solder these wires directly to it, which actually may be a more interesting fix, to be honest. Driver here. Just so that we can actually look at this board, because I don't know how much regulation there is on this. But Yeah. Okay. Oh, actually, we might want to check these capacitors first, to be honest. Yeah, so we could actually unsolder these and solder these wires directly to this board. Probably would be a better solution. The other thing that we probably should do, given the age of these, is probably unsolder these capacitors and switch them out if I have the right ones there. So that one's 16 volt, 47 nanofarad, I believe, and this one is 25 volt, 220. But we can take them out and actually check them as well. I reckon we do that actually, and that looks fine. Maybe spray a bit of contact cleaner in that switch as well. Okay, let's do that, shall we? Let me just see if I've got a couple of these caps here. Gotta be honest, this is just a kind of a standard kit that you get off of AliExpress or somewhere like that. 25 volts, so what we're looking for? Yeah, 25 volts, 220s. Yes. Yep, we have 25 volt, 220, which is yep. So we have one of them, and the other one is, I believe, 16 volt by 47. No, I do have a 47 by 25 volt there. So for those of you that aren't aware, the voltage is the maximum voltage that a capacitor can actually, I suppose, stand. Probably not the right term, but you can use a capacitor of a larger voltage as long as the nanofarad rating is the same. So with that in mind, let's see if we can pop these out. We should be able to take them out fairly easily. And forever forgetting to clean up my bench as I work, which causes me no end of strife. But yeah, so my iron, I don't tend to play with my iron temperature very much, to be honest. It's set at 360 degrees, which should be well and truly enough to pop these out. I'll also unsolder this connector here as well. The problem with a lot of these is that they've, when they bend the legs over, trying not to damage the board, it can make it a bit awkward to get these out, but hopefully I think we got one side out. There we go, that's one. The trick is always making sure that you get the right one. Kind of hoping you guys can get an idea of what I'm doing here. All I'm doing is just melting the solder here. Well, trying to. And just putting a little bit of pressure on the capacitor in the background. Yep, there we go. Alright, let's just put them to one side for 1 second. And what I might do is just grab my ESR meter here and just check them. So for those of you who don't know, supposedly you can check these in, they say you can check these in circuit, but I've never had any success with that, so I much prefer to try it out of circuit. But you do need to be careful of the polarity when checking these for it to get an actual result. Just make sure those aren't touching. Let me just unplug those for a second and zero those, because that's supposed to be 220 at 25 volt, I'm pretty sure. Yep, so there we go. So negative to negative and positive to the positive side. And these are supposed to be auto ranging. Yeah, I'm not even sure that that's actually registering properly. I might actually check it with my component tester as well. Let's just try the other one, shall we? Alright, so they actually, interestingly, almost appear to be working, but alright, they could be, could well be. You never know, you're in the big bag city, but I'm just going to double check that with my component tester, just for fun. Okay. Now, these are not specifically polarized, but you do need to make sure you don't put them in the same number. That one there, and that one there, and let's switch that on. Okay, so that one's actually saying that this is good. This is supposed to be a 220 and it's 223.3 nanofarad with an ESR of 0.54. So it looks like that capacitor was actually okay. And this one here, now this one's saying it's 50.6 nanofarad and 8.6 volts, which is not actually that far off, which is supposed to be 8.6, an ESR of 0.86. What am I talking about? 8.6 volts. And this one's supposed to be 16 volts at 47. So these two do appear to have been okay, but I'm still going to change them out. They've been in there since forever. So now will be a good time to get them changed out. And clean this one up here. A little bit of solder wick. And a little bit of flux. Goes a long way in helping to clean these up. Again, no real change to my iron here. Just all I'm doing here is just cleaning out the holes so that I can solder the components back in properly. Just makes my life a little bit easier. Just very gently, just to take the bulk of this stuff off. I could have done this with the desoldering gun, but to be honest, there isn't enough to actually warrant it. That should do it. So, as I said, this is 25 volt 220, which is equivalent to this one. And we just got to make sure we get the polarity right. Don't know if you can actually see that on there, but there is a sort of a wide white, which that's the usually indicates ground. So, which is the negative side. So there we go. I should have actually taken a little bit more notice when I pulled this off the board, but I think we'll be right. Okay, so I just tend to bend them over like that so that we can give them a nice bit of solder in there. And then again, this one here is 47 nanofarad. Now this one says 16 volts. This one is actually 25 volts, but that should be fine for this application. But you know, I could be wrong. From what I've learned so far, that should be okay. Alright, so now we're going to grab a little bit of solder. We don't need a huge amount here. I'm just going to nip that off there. Now, I like to add a little bit of flux. And I don't tend to put a huge amount on. All we need is just enough to actually aid in the actual soldering process. So all I'm going to do is just literally put that there and that up. There you go. Probably didn't need to actually put any in that particular layer, but there was some there to begin with. I'll keep that little bit of solder there. Might use that when it comes to soldering onto these wires. I'm actually tempted to leave these ones here connected and just solder these directly to this. Oh, okay, so just for those that you don't know the difference, these technically are not flush cutters. Okay, if you have a look, you can hopefully see that they're not quite completely flat on this side, whereas these ones, when you close them up, are completely flat. So these allow me to actually get in here. I should be able to pull this up now and cut that off really close to the board, like that. There we go. And that should be fine now. We know we've got nice fresh capacitors in there. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to literally spray a little bit of contact cleaner in here. just to make sure that that's nice and free, and we get good contact out of it. Now the contact cleaner I'm using, yeah, literally just off the shelf stuff, nothing special about it. So just spray it in each side here, and all I'm going to do is just move this back and forth like that. Okay, and we'll just, that should be fine. We can test it. We can just go into continuity mode on here. And for those of you not aware of what continuity mode means, basically continuity mode just checks the integrity of the connection. And when you get a nice connection, we get a nice beepy sound. Okay, so we can check that now, and all we're going to do is just sort of make sure, yep, and then we shouldn't get anything on this side. Those are earths. So if I go there and there, yep, there and there, nothing, there and there, nothing, there and there, nothing. If I move the switch now, nothing. Well, it helps if I actually get a connection on it. Yep, that seems to be working fine. The other thing that we should really check is this fuse here, just to make sure that we're actually fine with this. Yeah, 125 volt 5 amp fuse, which is actually soldered directly in. Don't say that anymore. Now what we need to do is figure out how we're going to mount this. We know that the PCB goes in this way, like so. Yeah. The PCB goes in this way. We know that we can probably look at tucking these wires out the way down here. The only reason I'm keeping these, it won't actually affect anything because they're not gonna short out on anything. But what it will allow me to do, oh, it helps if I make sure that switch is in the hole. But what it will allow me to do is to maintain these wires so that at a later date, if I want to, I can, or if I want to, or I can find an actual working version of these, then literally, in theory, I should be able to just take this battery out and put this one in, although I'm not sure that there's a really strong reason why I would do that. Okay, let me just screw this PCB back in. Helps if I use the right screws. Okay, so if I'm it's alright, I'm just trying to see how long I should make these wires. We know that this is the negative and plus for the charge out. So that's the DC out. That's the charge out, and there will be a maintenance charge circuit there as well. These should actually have a battery manager built into them, so okay, so let me just try not to short these out, because that would be really bad. I will put some Kapton tape on these, just to make sure that they stay there and nothing actually shorts with them. So I'm just going to tin this one up. Put a little bit of flux on there. And have a little bit of solder. Make sure I get them on the right connections. Actually, what I might do, I'm going to add some more solder to this first, some leaded. Just want to make sure I get a really good connection on this. While we're not dealing with huge voltages, these battery type systems I'm always a little bit cautious of. I also don't want to heat this up too much. Alright, I might just let that cool off a second. And before I go any further, so what this should do, apart from giving it a little bit of mechanical strength, is it should actually help isolate the battery terminals so they can't short out on anything. I'm just going to quickly fast forward over this next bit. It's identical to connecting the negative cable. We're just connecting the positive cable, causative lead I should say, to the positive terminal. Now, before I do that, what I might do is just test this. Sorry, volts DC. What I'm going to do is just quickly just test this. So that's isolated there, that's good. Right, just stick this under there, like so. Yes, there. So I slip with the probes there, it's actually fine. So what I want to do is just make sure that those are nicely isolated. I'm just going to cut a bit more of this and put that over that positive terminal. Should really have a pair of scissors for this, but I've got to work with what I've got at the moment. So just move that down a bit there. Basically, this tape allows, well, should provide a level of isolation between those particular pieces. So those particular wires, I should say. Now, the question is, will it go back together again? Oh, it does. It fits. Check the output in a second. Might should we just give this a bit of a clean first? There we go. There we go, that's a bit better. Does look like a bit of, looks like a little bit of corrosion here. Just on there. Which, to be honest, actually doesn't really surprise me that much. Maybe a little bit of IPA. I'm not so worried about putting IPA on there. IPA is non-conductive, so it's more about getting rid of any corrosion or anything that we've got on there. So I believe these are negative external and positive internal. 7.3 volts. I'm just going to fast forward
And zero.
the reassembly part here. Basically, it's just the reverse of the disassembly that we saw at the beginning of the video. I don't actually have a Game Boy charger here, but what I do have is a universal one. So this one is actually 3 to 12 volts DC. You can adjust it, but it's a maximum draw of about 2.5 amps. So with all the correct plugs according to this, so this one. Yep. At least in theory. Okay, so I do apologize. It wasn't until I started editing the video that I realized that the camera had actually stopped recording. So I'm going to pick we're picking this up the next day. The unit has been assembled. I've got the adjustable power supply connected up, the 3 to 12 volts. It's set at 9 volts. And it's plugged into the unit. And as you can see, hopefully if I put my hand like that, the charge light is well and truly on, and it's working, and if I switch that, it switches off. Now these actually only work, functionally only work on charge when they're connected, and the actual on off switch is purely for charging. It doesn't switch the actual battery pack on when you plug it into the Game Gear. As soon as you plug it into the Game Gear, it's running. And I actually believe, and I don't have a manual for this, and I probably should look it up, that you couldn't charge these while you were using them. But I'll double check that. Okay, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you could like, subscribe, share, and I believe you're supposed to hit the bell thing for notifications. And I'll see you in the next video.